Hello everyone. We are starting with the second variant of June 2012 Pure Math Paper 1. This is for AS level math. Now let's look at the questions that are of utmost importance to us in this particular video. Question number 1. There is a diagram drawn, a sketch. The equation is y equals to 6 over 2x minus 3. The diagram shows the region enclosed by the curve, the x-axis, and the line x is equals to 2 and x is equals to 3. The shaded region, I have already shown it. Find, in terms of pi, the volume obtained when this region is rotated 360 degrees about the x-axis. Now, there are two applications of integration that we deal with. The first one is area under graph and the second one is volume of revolution. What is the concept of volume of revolution? It's about the x-axis. That means your equation should be in terms of x. Your limits should be on the x-axis, that is between 2 and 3. And the working is square the function, then integrate as usual, then plug in the limits. You plug in the upper limit first and then the second limit. Simplify and don't forget to multiply by pi. And definitely leave the answer in terms of pi. That is very easy for the examiner to mark it as correct because you don't have to deal with the accuracy level. One other thing that you should take care of, what a lot of people do is that they expand 2x minus 3, the whole thing square, in the denominator. If you do so, you are stuck there for life. You cannot take the expression up. So what is the working? The working is 2x minus 3 raised to power of 2 in the denominator. When it goes up, according to the rule of indices, that becomes minus 2. Rest is integration. That's an application of chain rule of integration. Linear function on the inside, power on the outside, increase the power by 1. Divide by the new power, divide by the coefficient of x, and then you get the answer. That answer comes out to be 12 pi cubic units. When the answer for area comes, you write it as square units or units square. When the answer for volume comes, you write the answer as cubic units or units cube. Now, which rule of integration was used over here? That's called the chain rule. Do you remember, any one of you? What were the limitations in applying the chain rule of integration? Let's stop for 5 seconds and think. Okay, there were two limitations for the chain rule of integration. The first rule was the expression inside the bracket should be a linear, which is the case over here. Second limitation, which of course won't be coming in the P1 paper, that is the power could be anything, but the power could not equal to minus 1, otherwise the whole function would be undefined. We will deal with this when we will start the integration of A-level second year. That means log, natural log will come into action. It will rescue such functions. So question number 1 is done. Question number 2 is straightforward. Question number 3 is straightforward. Question number 4. The point A has coordinates such and such. Point B has coordinates such and such. Perpendicular bisector of AB meets the x-axis at C and the y-axis at D. Find the length of CD. First, strategize. First, think of a way of doing it. Perpendicular bisector. That means it is perpendicular as well as it's a bisector. That means it's passing through the midpoint. That means I need the coordinate of A, which is given. I have the coordinate of B. I can find the midpoint. I can find the gradient of AB and do the negative reciprocal thingy. So therefore, gradient of AB, be very careful, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. In all level of maths, one thing you will learn is that always be careful. Gradient of the perpendicular is minus 4 over 3, midpoint x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Equation of perpendicular bisector, apply the concept y minus y1 is equals to mx minus x1. And there's no need of expanding the equation unless you have to solve it in a particular manner. You have to write it in a particular manner according to the examiner's requirement, or you might need to expand it when you want to solve it for simultaneous purposes. Now, it says it meets the x-axis at C, therefore y coordinate is 0. Therefore, you can write the coordinate as small c comma 0. 0 plus 2 is equals to minus 4 over 3 x minus 3. Hence, you make x the subject. You could have written c instead of x, and the value of c would come out. X comes out to be 1.5. Coordinate of c is 1.5 comma 0. When the line meets the y-axis, y coordinate is 0. When it meets the y-axis, x coordinate is 0. My bad. So the coordinate of d is 0 comma small d. Again, work it out. You find the value of d, and what's the last part? Length of CD. That's kiddish stuff. y2 minus y1 over y2 minus y1 whole square, x2 minus x1 whole square, the whole thing under root. If the answer is not an exact integer, and since the examiner has not specified anything, leave the answer in the third form. And I was able to play around with the fractions, and my answer came out to be an exact 5 over 2, which I can write as 2.5 or 2.5. Next question, trigonometry question. First one is proving the identity. What is the logic that you have in mind in order to prove an identity? First of all, P1 is very, very simple. The only identity that you deal with is a square identity, the mother of all identities. Sine square theta plus cos square theta equals to 1. And of course, you also know the concept that tangent theta is sine over cos. Now, usually, it's not a hard and fast rule. Usually, we start from the left-hand side. There's nothing magical about the left-hand side except the examiner or the author of a particular book tends to write something with many terms on the left and something with lesser terms on the right. So it's a hard and fast rule. Trimming is always easier rather than growing. Trimming the left-hand side and making it smaller will always be an easy option, as compared to taking something small and then kind of making it big. That will always be difficult. Are you getting the idea? Start with the left because left usually is bigger. Trim it down, simplify, factorization, LCM, some algebraic manipulation, using common sense to take common. All these things will be used. So now there were two options. Either I can take the LCM as it is, or I could have simplified and taken it. Today, I felt the need to take the LCM and then later think about the simplification. Tan square x plus 1, since we are not using that identity that was used in additional math or will be used in A-level math second year, so I simply wrote tangent square is sine square over cos square. And then what? You write the division sign, the old school division sign, and write tangent x on the right hand side. Rest is your knowledge of taking LCM. Rest is your memory, recalling sine square plus cos square equals to 1. Simplifying it, division sign into multiplication sign, upside down, and then you get the answer. So the answer comes out to be 1 over sine x cos x. Quite easily done. Now, the second part, it says, solve the equation 2 over sine x cos x equals to 1 plus 3 tangent x. Now, this thing over here, this thing is basically this thing, and this thing is equal to this thing. So, in other words, 2 over sine x cos x is 2 multiplied by the left-hand side of the equation. I write it this way. And 2 multiplied by 1 plus tan x plus 1 over tan x equals to this thing. Cross multiply, LCM, same old procedure for solving an equation. Knowledge of simultaneous, knowledge of quadratic, factorization, middle term factorization, that is, quadratic formula, they all are a must. So you get a quadratic equation. Don't always expect it to be factorized. In most cases, yes, it would factorize, but what's the use of a quadratic formula if everything were to be factorized? So after factorization, you get tangent x equals to 1 and tangent x equals to 2. It's not over yet. Now your knowledge of solving a trigonometric equation comes in. Tangent x equals to 1, tangent x equals to minus 2. Take care of the quadrants, modify the range if needed, find the basic angle, write down the final answer, and that's how it's to be done. So first and third quadrant. In the first quadrant, theta is alpha. Second quadrant, theta is 180 plus alpha. For tan x equals to minus 2, it's second and fourth quadrant. Basic angle will always be calculated using a positive ratio. I hope you remember it. Why? Because basic angle is the acute angle with the x-axis. Work in 2 decimal places. Final answer in 1 dp. Second quadrant, theta is 180 minus alpha. Fourth quadrant, theta is 180 plus alpha. And that's how you get this answer. One more thing. Since we are so much used to solving in terms of 0 and 360, go ahead and think in terms of 0 and 360. There is no harm in writing some extra answers and then cutting it at the end. There was no extra effort that I did except with an addition sign. 180 plus 45 and 360 minus 63.43. It looks good that way. And at the end, I realized the fact that your answers for x are between 0 and 180. So out of 4, 2 are accepted and 2 are rejected. Now let's look at this question of circular measure. What is the first thing about circular measure? You need to understand the terminologies. You know what a diameter is, a radius, a circumference, arc length. It's part of a circumference. S is equals to r theta. S is arc length. R is radius. Theta is the angle in radians. Make sure the angle is in radians and the calculator is in the radian mode. Both things are necessary. S is equals to r theta. If I can multiply theta is 1.2 and r is 10. I don't need a calculator, but of course my angle should be in radians. When we are using sine, cos, tangent, and we are using the calculator, for example, half AB sine C, or simple sine, simple cos, simple tan, sine rule, cosine rule, for all these things, the angle has to be in radians, calculator in radian mode. So now coming back to this, what is a chord? A chord is a line that connects 2 points on the circumference of a circle. An angle is given and radius is given. What is the first thing? The length of AB. That's a simple application of cosine rule. We just talked about it. Make sure calculator is in radian mode, angle is in radians. Perimeter of this plate. For this plate, everything that is made up of solid black line, that is the perimeter. So AB is a perimeter. We already know it. What else do I need? I need the length of the major arc AB. Therefore, my angle would be 2 pi, 360 degrees. In radians is 2 pi minus 2.4. Based upon that, I find the arc length. Perimeter is AB chord plus the arc length of the major segment. Third part, the area of the plate. There are 2 ways of doing it. What some people do is that, let me draw it. They extend the circle like this. This is just for purposes, something like this. And they find the area of this thing, minor segment, and subtract it from the total circle. That's one approach. What is the other approach? Let's have a look. The other approach is finding the area of this triangle, half AB sine C, and then finding the area of the major sector. That is half r squared theta. But what is theta? Theta is 2 pi minus 2.4. Add both and you find the answer. This answer would be, which I have not calculated it because there is something left for you also. Otherwise the video would go very, very long. That is, use a calculator, take care of the accuracy and get the answer. Okay, a question on arithmetic and geometric progression. In an arithmetic progression, the sum of the first n terms is denoted by Sn. It is given by Sn is such and such. Find the first term and the common difference. From my experience, this This is the easiest question on AP, but unfortunately, at least 50 to 40% of the people, they get this wrong. I don't know, for some reason. Maybe they cannot read the English properly. Sn, sum of n terms. That means if I plug in n is equals to 1, I'll get sum of one term according to this formula. If I plug in n is equals to 2, I'll get sum of two terms. That comes out to be 20. Now, a lot of people, what they do is that they say first term is 9 and the difference between 20 and 9 is common difference. Wrong. Because this is not the formula for Tn, this is the formula for Sn. Sum of one term means the first term itself. Sum of two terms means T1 plus T2. That means the difference between 20 and 9, which is 11. That is not the common difference, that's the second term. Game over. First term is 9, second term is 11. Therefore, the common difference is 2. Straightforward. Have a look. In a geometric progression, moving to the second one. In a geometric progression, the second term is 9 less than the first term. First of all, both terms are not equal. That's common sense. Duh. And second is 9 less than the first term. That means first is bigger than the second term by 9. So what I'll write the first thing, T2 is less than T1. Therefore, T1 minus T2 is equals to 9. Sum of second and third term is 30. Okay, first I'm expanding it. Second and third is 30. AR plus AR square is 30. I think I'll take AR common. But then I later realized there was no need of taking AR common. I have to take A common. So A is 9 over 1 minus R. A is 30 over R. 1 plus R. Equate both of them. Solve. And then you'll find the values of R, and hence you'll find the value of A. So question number 7 is also done. Question number 9. The diagram shows part of the curve. It's a quadratic curve. The curve has a maximum point at A. Maxima, minima, stationary point. What's the logic? Take out the first derivative, equal it to 0. You will find the coordinate of the stationary point. And we know from the knowledge of quadratic, a quadratic has only one stationary point. And then it says the gradient of the line BA is 2. Find the coordinates of A and B. Let's get started. Differentiation, minus 2x plus 8. Equal it to 0. Therefore, x will come out to be 4. And your diagram, from the diagram, look at the answer. Does it make sense? In a hurry, maybe I said minus 2x equals to 8. X comes out to be minus 4. Then my answer would not make sense because it's contradicting the diagram. So therefore, x comes out to be 4. Plug it in. You find the value of y. Because coordinates means x and y coordinates both. Now, equation of AB. I have the coordinate of A. I have the gradient of BA or AB. It's not a vector, so it doesn't make a difference how I pronounce it. BA is the same thing as AB. So I can find the equation of AB. After I have found this, what can I do? I can solve a linear equation with a quadratic equation simultaneously. So I'll find the value of x, that comes out to be 2. I'll find the value of y, which coincidentally also comes out to be 2. So I found A, I found B. The second part is too easy. Find integral of this and hence evaluate the area of the shaded region. Area of the shaded region is simply area under the graph, the curve between the x coordinate of B and the x coordinate of A. The x coordinate of B is 2 and the x coordinate of A is 4. So basically between 2 and 4, you simplify, you integrate, you plug in the limits and you get the answer. Question number 10. There is a straight line function, there is a reciprocal function. Why does it write x is not equal to minus 3? Because if x were to be minus 3, if x were to be 3, 3 minus 3 is 0, 8 over 0 would be undefined. Obtain expression in terms of f inverse and g inverse, stating the value of x for which g inverse is not defined. Let's work it out. Let y is equals to fx, therefore f inverse y equals to x. Therefore, y is equals to the straight line function, make x the subject, but x is equal to what? F inverse y. Therefore, we have a habit of writing everything in terms of x, so F inverse x is such and such. Similarly, we find what is G inverse, and now this time x is in the denominator. That means x could assume any value, but if x were to assume the value of 0, the function would be undefined. Therefore, the value of x for which G inverse x is not defined. Sketch the graph of y is equals to fx, y is equals to f inverse x on the same diagram, making clear the relationship between the two graphs. We know, without even drawing, the relationship between a function and its inverse. It could be a straight line function, it could be a quadratic function. Of course, it has to be a one-to-one function. It could be a log function, a trig function, exponential, that you will study in A-level second year. That is reflection in the line y is equals to x. So let me write this thing without even solving this. So reflection in line y is equals to x. It says making clear. That means when you draw the diagram, you should definitely show, of course with a dotted line, the line y is equals to x, and the other two functions should look very realistically as reflection of each other. Let's have a look. In order to draw a straight line, take at least 3 points. 2 points are not a good idea, because in the heat of the exam, if 1 point is correct and 1 is wrong, still you would get a straight line. So you won't be able to identify your mistake. So remember the golden rule, at least 3 points in order to draw a straight line. These are the 3 points. Because of that reflection in the line y is equals to x, what would happen? Coordinates flip. xy becomes yx, ab becomes ba, 05 becomes 50, 17 becomes 71, and 29 similarly becomes 92. Now this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. The red line is y is equals to fx. The blue line is y is equals to x. The green line is y is equals to f inverse x. And I kind of drew it, and it was not meeting with one another. But then I realized they're approaching towards each other. So it's a good idea. So extend the line. Of course, you would be using a ruler. Extend the line y is equals to fx, y is equals to f inverse x, y is equals to x, so that it's a hard and fast rule that if these 3 points are gonna intersect, they will intersect in the line y is equals to x. It's a hard and fast rule. That means if, for example, they might have asked us, what is the point of intersection of fx and f inverse x? So if they ask me point of intersection of y is equals to fx and y is equals to f inverse x. So now I have 3 options. This is fx, this is f inverse x, and this is y is equals to x. I can solve these two simultaneously, I can solve these two simultaneously, I can solve these two simultaneously. So there are 3 options available. I can choose the easiest option to get my point of intersection. Needless to say, they will all give us the same exact answer. Now let's look at question number 10, the last question of this paper. This was the last question, the last part of this paper. Given that the equation f of gx, composite function, where k is a constant, has no solution, find the possible values of k. First, get the composite function. F of gx means gx should be inserted in place of x in fx. So therefore, let me remind you, gx means gx goes inside fx. After simplification, this is what you get. Equate it to 5 minus kx. And let's see what kind of function do you get. Linear, quadratic, cubic, let's see. When you expand, you are getting a quadratic expression, no solution. That means no points of intersection. That means roots are imaginary, which means b square minus 4ac is lesser than 0. So now this was a question of composite function, and it's closely linked with its sister concern chapter, which is quadratics. So knowledge of quadratics is used. It's a quadratic inequality. Let's hope for the best. Either it would be a linear or a quadratic inequality. I see for sure that it's a quadratic inequality. What were the words that I always say when we solve a quadratic equation? Drawing a sketch is a must. That means factorize. Factorized form of a quadratic equation, a square minus b square, that's a plus b, a minus b. Lesser than 0 is the region below the x-axis. Those who are not well versed in solving a quadratic inequality, go to the YouTube channel, search the playlist. It's there in the P1 playlist as well as the AddMaths playlist. There's a separate video on quadratic inequality. Have a look at it. Make sure that you know the stuff. What's the use of not knowing or having half knowledge when you are solving the difficult part, and when it comes to the easy part, you are just getting it wrong just because you were not mentally prepared for it and your knowledge was missing? I think we should avoid such scenarios. Coming back to this, the two brackets are multiplying. We are looking at lesser than 0. We don't solve it algebraically. We look at the sketch and solve it. Less means region below the x-axis. Below the x-axis is one single region, one single answer. K lies between 8/3 and minus 8/3. So that finishes this variant, and let's meet again in the next video. Till then, take care.